Hi, class. I want to talk about your good writing assignment. I was really pleased with the results and how carefully you guys assessed what goes into creating good writing. So I wanted to kind of give that back to you and talk a little bit about your responses and what it all means. So what I did is I took all of your responses, everyone's responses, organized them into a series of slides. And for the responses that two or more people included in their assignments, I increased the size of that response so you can see how much emphasis you as a class put behind particular aspects of these skills. Start off with a few of you identified the systemic nature of good writing, which is one of the things that the text wants to call your attention to. In writing, you should have a system. And we're going to talk about what that system should be to a certain extent now and then throughout the semester. This will help you in scheduling your time and organizing your efforts for writing assignments in the course, but hopefully it will help you to develop a way to approach writing tasks moving forward in your academic and professional life. As many of you obviously noted, having a clear, defined purpose is important for good writing. This is where writing begins. Now in this class, a lot of that is going to be done for you in terms of developing the assignment, but there will also be independent research involved in which you will have to yourself figure out what it is that you want to write about. In the real world of actual professional writing tasks, you will also be assigned a purpose, or you may, through your own research, reading, and interaction with others in your field, come up with a new purpose that you want to embody in a new writing task. Whichever way it is, understanding what that purpose is important for the first step. Now, a huge part of that purpose, obviously, is going to be convincing an audience to accept your perspective on something, whether you're trying to make a sale, offer your services, and the like. And here's where we can think back now to the job search documents and begin to use them as a way to think through the system of good writing. In that assignment, your purpose was to write as if you were going to be getting a job. In your real life, perhaps, you are actually using these materials to get a job. If not, it won't be that long before you're doing it. The audience, in this case, is the person who could potentially hire you. And it's very important to understand who that audience is, what they're looking for, what it is that's going to, take to get them to offer you the job. Moving on from identifying and familiarizing yourself with the audience is understanding the larger overall context in which the writing is going to occur. Now, this touches on audience, but it also touches on a host of other issues as well. Where are you in relation to your audience? How will your communication be reaching them? In what conditions will you be writing? In what conditions will they be reading? These are all important professional considerations. We tend to neglect these when doing essays for expository writing and the like, because all of that's kind of settled for you so you can focus on just putting one word after the other. But in professional writing, not all contexts are going to be the same, and so it's important for you to be able to determine how your audience is going to receive this, at what time, in what manner, and what you can do to take that into account in order to produce the desired impact. A number of you zeroed in on the medium, and by medium we mean the container in which the writing is held and delivered. So the medium would be, should I do an email? Should I do a letter? Should I do a report? Should I do a proposal? These are all different types of writing in the professional world, and understanding which one is appropriate for the task is important. Now, if you're going to be a professional writer in a firm, generally there'll be a style book, a guidebook that will determine for you the appropriate document, the appropriate shape, the appropriate formal conventions, and the like. But without that, you have to, on your own, get a sense of what's appropriate in this context. Would an email be appropriate if it's a coworker? It's relatively informal communication or relatively quick communication? Yeah, probably. However, if it's outside the organization, or if it's a more formal type of communication, or if it's a long communication, other types of documents might be more appropriate. And it's up to you to make the correct identification. Of course, we have to take into account what goes into the writing, its content. Now, this is kind of a shaggy dog of a category. I threw a whole bunch of things in here from where you guys were trying to determine how to figure out what goes into good writing. So I got brainstorm, I've got research, and those are two different, in a sense, skills, but they're both directed at the same end, which is figuring out what goes into the writing document. You do need to sit down and expend some effort to find ideas, identify facts, make sure those facts are credible. Sort of test your ideas out by discussing them in relation to each other and see how they fit with your overall purpose and the like. Make a list of sources that you want to work with and so forth. This seems kind of obvious, but yet it's important to take deliberate account of it. And there's the issue of scope. A few of you identified this as important, and I agree. In determining your content for your document, you also want to be able to determine how much content you need. How large is the argument? How in depth do you need to get in order to make your case, in order to make your sale, in order to make your point? You don't want to go on infinitum. You want to be able to convince your reader, bring your reader over to your side without boring them or overwhelming them in unnecessary detail. Once you've gotten that far, you can begin to better organize your information. We'll talk about organization in just a little bit in terms of setting up the document. In longer documents, it's going to require additional effort to determine the appropriate sequence of points, where each piece of information should go, and so forth. This is also part of revision. Good writing is rewriting, and any document worth doing is worth doing well, which means going through successive drafts to nail everything down in its appropriate place. A number of you picked up on the issue of objections or counter arguments. This is very important. In your writing, you should anticipate all of your readers' potential questions, which is here expressed as thinking like a journalist. You'd want to anticipate objections to what you're trying to do or sell or convince, so that you can offer counter arguments of your own in order to address those objections. To acknowledge conflicting opinions, that there might be some concern about what it is that you are offering or selling or recommending, and you want to make sure that your reader understands that you've already considered potential negative approaches or takes on the issue and are still convinced that your way is the right way. Now, not many people picked up on clarity, at least not on its own. A number of you picked up clarity in terms of some of the other issues in good writing, but it's worth taking a look at clarity in itself. If we're going to define in a single word what makes good writing, I think clarity is probably the one I'm going to go with in the end. Clarity means that you're being effective in achieving your purpose. You're fully transparent to the reader what it is that you want to do, why, and how. One person picked up on ethics, and I think it's still worthwhile thinking about this at more length. Yes, you should be writing ethically. Even in the business world where, it's no holds barred and, there are no moral implications other than the profit margin and the like. You're still bound by certain ethical requirements. They may be legal or fiduciary requirements that are specific to the field, or they may be requirements that you behave ethically in the workplace in relation to your fellow workers or to supervisors or the like. And largely, even in sales, there's still a requirement to be honest, that you're not deliberately falsifying information, that you're presenting things as not just clearly and competently, but ethically as well. And then one person picked up on conclusions and how necessary an appropriate conclusion is. And so this is our last item on the list. Yes, you should have an appropriate conclusion for good writing. The appropriate conclusion will send the reader off into the world, having changed the reader's mind, made a sale, convinced them of an upcoming project, made them want to fund your next venture. Whatever it is, that conclusion should help close the deal, give the reader a sense of what's been accomplished by reading the document, and hopefully, in the end, win the reader over to your side.